Good.
Okay. Okay, it is recommended that the board return to public session. Can I have a motion?
Motion?
Motion by Ms. Mitchell, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Pellet. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the board is in public session, and the first item on our agenda this evening is a presentation by Dr. Anderson and some members of the VTHS community on the senior privilege program. So we're looking forward to your presentation. So the floor is yours.
Is it gonna be up here?
Are you projecting?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll move out of the way. These folders are for your presentation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's a copy of the presentation on the left side of the folder, and on the right side of the folder is some of the information that might have, I believe it was included in your packets as well. Some of our forms that we plan to give out to the students.
Great. Just for the board members, this is the first time I think you're meeting Danielle Colt. She's our new assistant principal at the high school. Yep, she replaced Jackie Van Norton. And of course, with Dr. Anderson, we also have Mr. Demsack, assistant principal, and we have some students from Vernon Township High School. So thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity. We'll let the students introduce themselves as well too. Somewhat here tonight.
All right, sounds good.
You're in charge of the clicker?
Hello, my name is Harry Malile. I'm the class president of the senior class at Vernon High School. I'm in the anti-bullying club and I'm an activity organizer for them. I'm also in the unified club there at the high school.
Awesome.
I'm on the varsity swim team, captain for the swim team, and I play lacrosse.
Awesome. Welcome. Wow.
Hi, my name is Faith Waller. I'm the class historian for the senior class, and I am in mock trial, Model UN. I am an avid member in Key Club, and I also cheer and I play lacrosse.
Great.
Hi, my name is Jaden Torres. I'm a senior at Vernon Township High School, and I'm the current president of a new club aimed at welcoming and assisting new students in their transition into our district. I'm also the vice president of hospitality for DECA. I was asked to speak tonight on the topic of our new senior privilege initiative. The administration has been working tirelessly on redesigning the layout for the ability to leave early. Eligible seniors now have the opportunity to complete a form with the consent of a parent or guardian, and this form allows the students to leave early on days that are compatible with their schedule. We have designed a new kiosk in our high school, which allows seniors to scan out with their student ID when leaving early. This has been a very successful and impactful mission so far. We're here today to ask you to expand on that mission. Today, we are proposing an open campus policy for lunch. This would mean seniors with the consent of a parent or guardian would now have the ability to sign up for lunch and leave campus. I have spoken with many of my peers on this topic, and I truly believe this addition would benefit many of us. I'd like to thank you all for your time and thank the board and administration for this opportunity to represent my peers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Good evening, everyone, in here and at home as well, too. Just so we have a nice eclectic group of our seniors here who represent the class of 2022 to speak to not just the current initiative that's been in place in September, allowing our students to leave campus at the end of the day when their schedules are concluded, but as Mr. Torres just eloquently put, to try to expand on that privilege as well, too. And this open campus privilege concept is, I'll put it in, Dr. Anderson led this initiative with Ms. Colt, and who is, I'm very happy, my better half and my partner, who we were able to steal from Sparta and bring here, who has been like a welcome addition to the Vernon Township High School administrative team, and has had many years experience of seeing this in place at Sparta and trying to bring it here to our seniors on campus as well. I'll speak to the different types of privileges here, but I'll let Ms. Cole jump in as well. Go ahead.
So there's two different types of senior privileges that would be available for our eligible seniors. So the first one would be open campus. So open campus would be exclusive to lunch. And then we have senior privilege would be exclusive to any student that has a study hall. So what that means is if a student's eligible, a student might be eligible for one or the other. So if they're eligible for open campus, they would be able to go out during the lunch period. If they're eligible for senior privilege, they would be able to go out well, they'd be able to either come in late or they would be able to leave early when they have a study hall that backs up to either the first period of the day or the last period of the day. Or the option 3 would be a student that has able to participate in open campus and senior privilege. So if a student has a study hall class 4, they can leave in the beginning of class 4, and they can also stay out until the end of the lunch period. So there's a variety of different options. Early dismissal has already been in effect since September of this year. Late arrival, which is what we're proposing tonight, we would like to start that January 10th of this upcoming school year. Okay, so what is senior privilege? Sorry, we did just cover that a little bit. Start of the school day versus the end of the school day. Before or after unit lunch when the study halls are adjacent. So it could be an extended period of time that the students are out, but it lends itself to a lot of flexibility for our students. If our students have a doctor's appointment that they need to go to in the middle of the day, if our students would like to go out and grab lunch during the unit lunch and support our local businesses, they would be eligible to do that. Some of the logistics of how they would be signing in and out, we do have a kiosk at the main entrance. Once they scan in and out of the kiosk, they would be tagged as either senior privilege or open campus, depending on which bucket, for better lack of words, that they would fall in.
If I can come, the senior privilege is expanding on, we've had early dismissal for many years at the high school. Early dismissal used to be in a schedule for a senior where they would leave 1, 2, or 3 periods at the end of the day and then go. A lot of them went to work and started to take in an income for their own self. And some of the conversations I've been having with some of our seniors this year are going to work and are contributing to their own situations at home. So, and it is a situation now with the rotating schedule. One of the perks of that is that some of our seniors who have one study hall at the end of the day, but say it's the 5th period of the day, have now been able to take advantage of that, of leaving when that is at the end of the scheduled day in the rotation. So it has been tremendous in the aspect, we have 96 students who have signed with parental consent to take part of this program. And which is about 48% of our seniors right now. That does not mean they all leave early every day. That is not, it's just they are part of this program where they are taking advantage of it. In conversations we were talking today, some of them, as you heard, are engaged in sports and activities where they're at the high school till 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night. And as you know, the high school starts very early. So this opportunity allows them the opportunity to leave, go unwind a little bit and come back before their practices or their clubs or activities commence. So it's been taking advantage of that. So some of them have left, taken advantage of senior privilege at the end of the day and have come back. Courteous of our IT team and working, you can see we now have a kiosk set up, which has been working wonderful of the aspect that now they take their IDs, as was said, and scan out. And it has it comes right in Genesis. So if you can see the students right in there, that it's like the students it turns purple with a timestamp that they have signed out and taking advantage that they're now in their senior privilege. So that is recorded, and then we track that to see what times that they have left to make sure our students are leaving at the times that they are supposed to. And if we commence with the open campus concept, they would still go through the same process of leaving. And then when they came in the main entrance, we do have a door monitor there for security purposes, is checking to make sure that the students are signing in are the students that are signing in and are coming in, and then they proceed to their class that they are going to. So the process, this has been going on, like they would sign out with the door monitor, but this has now expedited the process. At sometimes at the beginning of a period, we have 5, 10 students ready to go, that they're lined up, they scan out, we verify that they are, and then they go about their activities once they leave campus for the privilege.
The reason this had to come about, or that we've really accommodated this, was because of the new rotating schedule. When the students came back to school, they thought, oh, well, I'm off 2 periods, or I have a study hall, I'm going to be able to leave. Well, that doesn't work every day. So a lot of them felt like they're sitting there through 2 study halls when they could be doing something else that, or going home, or whatever it is that they were looking to do in the middle of the day. So this is something that we were looking to accommodate for that. This is the opportunity for students to leave the high school for unit lunch if they have no regularly scheduled class or science lab, which we are now pulling out of those unit lunches. The eligible seniors sign out all at different times. And we spoke a little bit about that, beginning of the unit lunch, start of class 4. So the amount of time that they would be out of the school would be similar to being at college, where you've finished with your classes, you don't have classes for another 2 hours, you go out, you can come back for your college, for your class at the end of the day. And the times would include the end of the unit lunch, end of class 5, if they were seniors in the study hall and having that senior privilege.
Which brings us to open campus being a privilege and not a right. So students would be expected to maintain and their GPA, keep their grades up. If they're experiencing any issues with lates, absenteeism, that's something that would be looked at by myself and Mr. Demsack. Because we do have high expectations for our students. Similarly, they're expected to participate in our Share the Keys presentation, make sure that they're in good standing with parking. And if for some reason they do run into any disciplinary issues throughout the year, we can certainly address that with them as it comes up. And Mr. Demsack and I will definitely be tracking that with the students throughout the school year. Message alerts will also be sent out to parents of seniors if for some reason we need to keep the students in and they're not eligible to go out for open campus or for senior privilege. And typically that would be for inclement wet weather, but hopefully there'll be a early dismissal or a late arrival anyway for the entire district that day, if that was the case. Okay, so why implement an open campus?
We'll let our seniors chime in on this one.
Thank you for having us present this presentation tonight. I, for one, have many friends who do leave school early to go to work and provide for themselves and their families. And especially with this last year with COVID, a lot of people have been hit hard by this, and even small businesses in our own town have. And I think it'd be really nice if all the seniors were given a chance to give back the money to the community by supporting these local businesses through lunchtime. And it allows people to go home too if they want to. So I think that's good.
As a senior who has like a full schedule, I don't have the ability to leave early. And like was said, 52% of my class also does not have the ability to leave early. So I think it would be nice, for the middle of the day for us to be able to take a break. And as a student athlete, I receive a lot of homework. So during my lacrosse season, we would leave for away games at about 2:30, 3 o'clock and not get back until about 8, 9 o'clock. And I'm still left with a load of homework. So I know a lot of students are unable to work in the crowded environment of the lunchroom or the auditorium. So having them able to go home and maybe knock out 1 or 2 assignments would lessen their workload at the end of the day.
I'll chime in a little bit too as a part of this, the incentive to keep grades up. As I just shared, 96 students have taken advantage of this since the beginning of September. Part of my job as the assistant principal in charge of 11th and 12th grade, I reviewed all of the students who have senior privileges grades, and out of that 96, I only had to have conversations with 5 of them who were right now potentially in danger of failing a class for the year, and had conversations with those students, called home, and essentially, quote unquote, put on probation and said, if the goal of this is to graduate. And if we continue this, then of course you can lose your privilege. But that speaks volumes. 5 out of 96. And when I say that right then and there, they understand it's a privilege. And candidly, when I have students in my office, we talk about this in general. I speak about students that drive and how all of these things, and there's different back to the other thing, the other slide, privilege versus right. And when we talked a little bit this morning with our seniors who are here about, we are understanding that we're putting responsibility on our seniors for doing this. A lot of our seniors are already adults. They're 17, they're 18 years old. In less than 7 months, they're going to be out and being and part of our contributing society. And what better way to give them the opportunity to be successful in a controlled environment where if anything happened, we can address and we can work towards trying to improve upon. And I really feel like that goes with the last slide as the VPs here. This has created better relationships with our seniors as well too, because we're putting trust in you and they're putting trust in us. And having those conversations with, again, they're 17, 18, but they are still living at home and the parents and guardians have the say of when and if this goes into effect. This is not just a completely, hey, everybody go. And I had a couple conversations with parents about that too. Can I take it away? Absolutely. Because we're trying to work together and see if you're concerned, then we will not implement it for your child. And I feel like that's the partnership that we're trying to establish and work upon at the high school as well. Our goal at the high school is to build and model young adults that are going to be our partners in society in the future. And what better way to do that while they're with us and while we can work together as a community and really as a family and try our best to support one another. I just wanted to echo that as that's one of the reasons why I think we should continue to expound and expand upon our open camp, our senior privilege.
And as a final note, as we continue to look towards the future with our underclassmen and our juniors, having an open campus and a senior privilege program gives them something to look forward to. It will increase, I believe, student achievement, because now our students are seeing that they have that opportunity to leave campus their senior year. So they will be looking at making sure that they're fulfilling all their course requirements in their schedule and their senior year. If they would like that opportunity to maybe leave earlier, they can participate in that program as well, where they have that opportunity to leave earlier in the afternoon. So I think as we talk to our freshmen and our sophomores moving forward, we're giving them that opportunity to explore other avenues their senior year, not just for working, but also if they want to pursue courses at Sussex County Community College, or if they want to pursue a trade opportunity or continue to get some of their certificates to complete their program here at the high school level.
All right, thank you so much. We appreciate your attention.
I just want to say, I thought that was an awesome presentation, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. We do have a few
Mrs. Anderson, I think we do have some questions.
but we're very pleased.
I'll let
Dr.
Charles.
Anderson, instead of one question real quick. So I just, the beginning end is really cut. It's really easy. I understand that. The lunch part is where I'm a little confused. So they have 50 minutes to drive back into town, grab a lunch, and then drive back. I'm concerned with the short period of what that, we know what teenagers do, right? We all we're all teenagers one time, we drive fast, it doesn't seem like a lot of time. Am I correct? It's the 50 minutes, that's.
By the time that the class 4 dismisses and when class, I guess 5 would be after it, it's an hour of it too. But then one of the things that we're trying to do as well, if that concern exists, but again, as we did, some of our students want to go home and they live 5-10 minutes away, and that's an opportunity for them to do that and have that opportunity to do it. And again, that's one of the things that when we had the document that's in front of you, we had central office review it, we had others review it and modeled it off there. I do understand that concern as well too. And the problem, go ahead.
It is a fair concern, which is why part of our parking requirement for all of our students on campus is to participate in the Share the Keys program and safe driving. And it's something that we can certainly address, but it is my hope that if we provide this program to the seniors, that they will take it seriously. And it's something that once it's officially approved, and stay positive, once it's officially approved, we would certainly have a class meeting with the seniors as well and make sure that we're lessening safe driving with them.
Yeah, because I mean, you're online at Paisanos, everybody's, 10 people. How long do you have to eat, get the food? It's hard. I worked in town and I used to go out for lunch too. It's hard to get it in an hour. So that's, yeah. I mean, if you live close or you go to Poach Chuck's, different,
Coach
right?
up, yeah.
Well, and I think too, like many moons ago when I was a senior, this was one of my favorite privileges and we took it very seriously. We did not want to lose this privilege and it really gave us the time to, especially as a senior, to have a little break and to look at a different wall. And the businesses in town, the restaurants they knew we were coming. They would have specials like ready, like, high school special, $3, slice of pizza, soda. They had one guy just like handing it out. So I think if we communicate with the community, we can definitely get some things for our seniors so that they know that they're coming.
And streamline the process.
Yeah, definitely.
Not going to speak to that.
Yeah, that's what we are hoping to do. We are hoping to build those relationships, let them know. Originally, we were talking about doing it one day a week and we would contact both those restaurants, but there's so many opportunities for them to really pre-order things and have things ready. It's just an idea to have something different for the seniors. They had spoken to us about a number of things this year. We tried to implement that senior door and a few other things so that the seniors know that they have a little bit of extra, extra privileges when they are in school. And so we're hoping for you to do.
Yeah, and like Dr. Anderson said, Mr. Bensack, Dr. Anderson, Mrs. Cole have all been really great for the senior class this year. They've all given us many opportunities, many privileges that we didn't have in a while. And honestly, this year of school has felt like the most normal year of school in such a long time and is such a relief. So everything they've been doing this year has really helped the school community grow. And I believe if us seniors are given this privilege, everyone knows the severity of it and how important this is. So hopefully, everyone will participate and listen and follow all the rules and everything like that. But we have a really great senior class, so I'm sure everyone's going to be doing just that. So thank you.
The junior class is watching you guys very carefully.
I'm sure they have something to look forward to.
If we're going to implement this with any class, the class of 2022 is that they are an exceptional class of students and young citizens. I just want to say that too. And working with them, I worked with a lot of them when they were down here in 6th grade, when I was the assistant principal down here, and just seeing how much they've grown, it's been tremendous. And I just feel like it's a great opportunity for them to demonstrate how much they have grown, but also in a safe and dignified manner. And I feel like this is what we can do as a community and support one another. And we will definitely, speak with them. And if this is, again, it's a relationship. So just to echo this, the senior, even if they are 18 years old, as I just explained, because we were talking with this, Harry is 18. I said, it's just like, he's 18, but he lives at home. So this is not his, this is a parent, guardian, team decision with the student and us too, to let them go. So if there are any concerns, that's a conversation that we have and you have with your child, and then they don't get the book. Or if you feel like they can't honor it, you reach out. A couple have already reached out to me in regards to what's currently in place and try our best to work together to ensure that they are keeping that privilege and allowing them to continue to go to work rather than sitting in study halls at the end of the day, so they can provide for themselves and get that gas in that car and do those types of things. So
I would just
Yeah.
like to add that, I think one thing that school's very structured time for these kids at all times. I was in high school a few years ago. We had a lot of free time. I don't know why everybody's laughing. I had a lot of free time in the school that I had, and what it teaches you is time management. So like Charles says, you're not going to drive to the marketplace, stand online, get a sandwich and come back. You might have to hit Pocheck running through,
Yeah.
but it teaches the kids time management. When they get to college, as we all know, and I do remember, you have a lot of free time and you got to figure it out because the work is harder, more intensive. So it is to some degree a subtle educational thing of letting them figure out that on themselves. So I definitely think it's a good idea.
Thank you.
Ms. Coughlin, were you trying to ask a question?
Yeah, I mean, where I grew up, 30 years ago, kids were leaving for lunch. Like, this is the norm. I went to a different high school than my siblings, so I wasn't allowed to leave. But I still remember being in college and my brother coming home with his friends and grilling in our backyard and then heading back to school. So I mean, that's how long it goes back to like where I grew up. So
Provided the idea.
I thought it was the weirdest thing. I only live 5 minutes away, so I'm already thinking ahead. There'll be kids grilling in my backyard.
Turn the grill on.
And I always thought that was so foreign that there were teenage boys grilling in my backyard with my brother. So this is like taking me back. But I guess one of the questions I have, like looking at this and being familiar with it again, growing up, and even my nieces and nephews, they left for lunch. I mean, I know it's really common. But like, I'm just looking at this from like an administrative standpoint. I'm thinking thumbs up to the administrators. This is a lot of administrative work because of a lot of rules. Like, I'm looking through them and I'm thinking like, okay, so what if you have a student, he or she now doesn't have a 2.0 now, but then next week they do. Like, this is a lot of like checking off boxes. So that was one thing I was thinking of. But I was also wondering, like, you know, if it says here, like if a student has to be passing all courses, but then Mr. Dempsey said, you know, scared of a child failing for the year. So I was trying to figure out like, so if a student, every single marking period has to be passing every single class, like that's the goal with a 2.0.
For the, it's on track to graduate. A
Okay.
bigger thing here is the goals. to
Yeah,
on
that's
track
what I
to
said. Are we going marking period or year? Because once you get towards third and fourth marking
Right,
period,
well, the
then we're
second
looking
one-
at year.
Yes, the second market period and there's midterms and there's that, and then we review it, the next.
And I think
week.
the case you were talking about might have been one or two courses,
Yes, it's not,
not the entire yeah.
and like, so. if
A
the-
student had above a 2.0.
Okay,
And then the point of the process is working together, so it's more, again, teaching responsibility, so I don't call students in my office, and be like, you're failing everything, and then now you lost it. It's always an opportunity to grow, and
It's an incentive, right? It
Yes.
provides an incentive.
And that's where it's
Yeah.
Right.
like probation, you know what I mean? Like, so I've had a couple conversations where I'll be reviewing your grades in a couple weeks and we'll see where you're at. And if you're continuing down this path, we need to rethink, because again, my goal here is responsibility. Because wherever they are in life next year, they don't have us as administrators and most of the like parents and guardians to really, you said, Mr. Zimmerman, a lot of free time. That's life. Right? Like, so once we get out of high school, we don't have that structured time of what you use with that time. And also if somebody can motivate you and give you the incentive to improve upon it, that's why it's an incentive for them. It works because they don't want to lose it. You know what I mean? Like.
oh
so
no,
when-
I
when it-
completely
when-
agree.
And when they're called, this is like that doesn't happen, but when we have that conversation, it's a wake up call. And then, because next time it is, it's like, you're gonna lose it. And it doesn't mean forever. It means there's an appeal process in there as well too. So
Okay,
that's what we try to do as well too. So I've had conversations with some of our seniors who drive the campus, and that's a privilege. And showing up late and having those conversations and, you know, you won't take away the driving privileges for the rest of the year. That doesn't solve anything. It's an
Right.
appeal process and we work for it and then you earn it back. And I think that's what we're trying to do with any kind of discipline. I could speak to this whole myself as the disciplinarians in the building is every time somebody's in our office is an opportunity to have a conversation to impact change and really work with that child and work with that family to better improve them. As I said, these guys in 7 months, but for our freshmen and sophomores, 3 or 4 years, they're working alongside us.
right.
And that is our goal of our high school, is to model citizens, to build them towards a better future for everyone. And that includes us who live and work in the community, where a lot of them will stay or go about their business and then come back. I'm one of those guys that moved back into my Lake community after many years away. And now I'm very involved in there as well. So I would like, and I remember those people that I just feel like that's our goal here as administrators, is to, as much as possible, work together to support our kids' school. These guys are wonderful. And they are just one iota of the whole class of 2026.
No, and I completely commend you, because one of the biggest things, I mean, to the high schools, I used to teach high school, and one of the things I thought was the weirdest thing is, it would be April, senior year, and a kid is raising their hand to ask to use the bathroom. But then in the same breath, they're heading off to college in a few months and could be taking on $100,000 of student loan debt. And I used to think to myself, you guys are juniors and seniors, just go to the bathroom. Like, you don't need me getting in the way of using the facilities when you're making adult decisions and you're heading off to college in a few months and taking on debt and doing these responsible things. So I fully agree. Again, have watched this for 30 years, but I just want to thank the seniors for coming. I know I can only imagine how incredibly busy you guys are. And I just want to let you guys know, I have to abstain. So when I abstain on this, please don't think as seniors, you don't have my support, but I have a senior. So therefore I'm going to be abstaining. So that way I'm not interfering in any way. So if you hear me abstain, just so you know, it's not me saying no. It's just what I have to do. So, but I support you guys. I think you guys are really doing a great job, and thank you for coming tonight.
Another thing at the high school too is that with athletics, if you are failing 2 classes, you cannot perform in the sport. And I think having this senior privilege will allow a lot of students who aren't involved in athletics to have a little extra motivation to get better grades and not fail classes so they can do this. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for
Thank
coming
you.
and presenting this evening.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So just as a note
yes.
to the board,
Oh, we're not voting.
well, the senior privilege program, it was recommended by our attorney that it be under food services for approval. But because we're looking at a senior privilege program that encompasses both the senior privilege and the open campus, I'm wondering if I shouldn't add a motion under my recommendations. I think that might be a better way. Do you
I agree.
agree?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then when we get to that portion, I'll amend
Yes.
that. Is that okay?
Yes.
Great.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, item E is public participation. And that is for members of the public who are attending here in person or from home via Zoom. We'll begin with those who are here in person. If you'd like to comment, please step up to the podium and state your name and municipality, and you'll have 5 minutes. Well,
Thank you. My name is Mark Tulick. And I'm here tonight because I'm a little concerned. My main issue is that currently I have a son, James. He's a senior in the high school. And right now he's sitting at home on 2-week sabbatical, basically. Not allowed to come to school because he was in supposed close contact with a kid at school on the basketball team for COVID. This is personal to me because I currently work as a registered nurse at St. Clair's and in the CCU and PCU, and I deal with these patients all day long. I've been there for 2 years, have not had any issues with COVID because I take precautions. My biggest issue is right now, for the past 3 days, because this happened on Friday, he was not able to attend school at all. No information was given to us. We just received communication from the high school on Monday afternoon. And if it wasn't for me approaching a couple of my fellow board members, I don't think anything would have been done. I looked at his Schoology, and there's assignments on there, but there's nothing that takes away from a teacher. Everybody needs a teacher. That's why they're in school. Teachers provide the information. Some of my best experiences over the years have been here in Vernon at school. Dr. McKay, you were part of that. With my son Anthony, with the father and son.
The book club.
Yes. I don't understand what the issues are. My son James has a merit scholarship to a Catholic university in Pennsylvania at this time. And because of a lack of communication, the fact that he hasn't been not able to get in touch with his teachers, and he has a 5th grade English teacher as his mentor for 45 minutes, that's unacceptable. totally unacceptable. Because he needs the education, and he could possibly lose that merit scholarship, which means now he has to find another 20,000 to pay for his education when he goes on to college. And that's a very big concern of mine. You guys gotta do better. When I reached out to Mr. Sweeney and Ms. Mitchell said she's got it. She's gonna run with it. And Mrs. Sweeney told me specifically, because he's taken English, anatomy and physiology, which I can handle because I'm doing that. Intro to business, statistics, writing, and gym. Statistics. Mrs. Sweeney said to me specifically, James needs help, you tell him to call me and I'll take care of it. I know it like the back of my hands. Why should he have to do that? The teacher should be taking care of that. They should have access. Last year, you had everybody on virtual learning. Everybody. What happened? Why aren't we doing that now? Why is my son being punished? Why is 7 other students on the basketball team being punished? Because they were doing what they're supposed to do, yet they're unvaccinated. Right now, currently, we have 15 people in the hospital. 8 of them were vaccinated with COVID, 1 on a ventilator that's about to die. So I don't want to hear that just because you're vaccinated means you're okay, because you're not. That's the reality. I deal with it every day. My point is that you guys got to do better. What's going to happen now? How is he going to make up all this time? He has 180 days that are required by the state to go to school. 3 days now, nothing. Rest of the week. I understand that starting next week, supposedly virtual is going to start up again. At least that's what I heard. The point is, he has 2 weeks off with no teaching, no education, no nothing. How is he going to catch up those 2 weeks? Those 2 weeks are gone. That's the reality, because the teachers don't have enough time to sit back and say, hey, we got to get this done. And how is he going to be able, especially with statistics and everything else? These are difficult classes. When I was in college, I had to take statistics for my degree, and I struggled with it. Now, he's learning this in high school. It's unacceptable. I don't know what the answer is, but you guys got to do better. I'm very disappointed in everything, and I'm sure the other parents who have their kids at home are the same way. This is not right. This is not fair. They should have the ability to have their kids required to school. It's simple. You had the program set up already. Why wasn't the switch just going on, cameras turned on in the rooms, and be done with it?
Thank you, Mr. Julich.
Issues? No, that's unacceptable. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public attending in person who would like to comment before we go to those attending via Zoom? Okay, Matt, do we have anybody on the Zoom live stream who is raising their hand to be admitted to the meeting?
Attendees, but no raised hands.
Okay, we'll give them a few more seconds because there is sometimes a delay. Okay, seeing none, we'll close it to the public at this time. Next, we have the committee reports, and then we have the review of the public meeting agenda after that. During Ms. Davino's superintendent's report, I know that she will have the opportunity to address some of the concerns brought up by a member of the community this evening that were outlined in her letter that went out this afternoon as well. But we'll stick with the agenda and first go to committee reports, which are item F. Okay, do any committee chairpersons have a report for the board this evening?
Oh, I do.
Okay, Ms. Coghlan, the floor is yours.
Okay, special services met on Wednesday, December 1st from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock. The members who were in attendance were Ms. Mitchell, Mrs. Pellet, Ms. Davino, the superintendent, Mr. Sabo, the BA, Mr. Fay, the director of special services, Ms. McDougal, the supervisor of special services, and myself as chairperson. We discussed the status of the oncoming BCBA, which is a board certified behavior analysis. And a very good idea was shared to use the new BCBA within a consultant manner for a little bit to really assist with teachers. That was an excellent idea and input. So I commend the administration of Mr. Fay and Ms. Dougal for that. We discussed the status of the Play Unified Esports program. We discussed the status of the NJIETA facilitator visits, which is the New Jersey Inclusive Education Technical Assistance Program. We spoke about the number of current special services aides. We discussed an update on Schoology for students with IEPs and 504s with having schoolwork accessible. We discussed the number of non-homeless students in out-of-district placements. We discussed beyond virtual academic mentors, what is in place to support students with IEPs and 504s to assure a continuity of services for students who are quarantined or meet criteria for exclusion. We discussed adding a social worker to the high school child study team. We discussed the role of the guidance department for gen ed and special ed to learn about a student's individual skill set, interests, future plans, and how the parents are going to be involved. And then the happy, very fun topic was if we can look into having therapy dogs be incorporated into the school district through the special services department, which would be hopefully a district-wide agenda. But that's very exciting because, I mean, we all love dogs. And that's everything that we discussed. So looking forward to our next meeting. And once it's scheduled, I'll have another report to do.
Thank you, Ms. Cochran. Are there any other committee reports for this evening? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go on to item G, which is a review of the public meeting agenda for next week. Does anybody have any questions on the public meeting agenda at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to item H, which is the superintendent's report. Ms. Davina.
The first item is for review with the Board of Education. It's the harassment, intimidation, and bullying, random drug testing, and school safety reports, which is attachment WS1.
Will we be reviewing those in
Yes,
executive?
the second executive. We need to
Okay.
review that.
All right, thank you. All right, item 2.
The next item is quarantine and virtual learning, much of which our public gentleman. And I'm sorry, I know you said your son's name was James. Could you repeat your name, sir? Tulip? Tulip. Okay, thank you, Mr. Tulip. I just wanted to be respectful and address you properly. So obviously, Mr. Tulip is expressing frustration, which I can totally understand. We did have a situation, unfortunately, last Friday at the high school. The Department of Health guidelines are guidelines that we are following in the school district, and we feel it's really important to maintain following those guidelines. And unfortunately, when we end up with more than a certain number of students with COVID in the same class, they recommend a 14-day quarantine. That was last week. Today, the entire state unfortunately went to orange status under the Cali level report, which means that under the Department of Health guidance, all close contacts who are unvaccinated, and these are just the guidelines, obviously, I haven't made them up. The unvaccinated folks who are close contacts would be looking at a 14-day quarantine. So that really does extend the time, and it does impact education, like Mr. Took was talking about. So previous to this, what was happening is if you were excluded from school, it was for 10 days, but there was an option to take a negative test on between days 5 and 7 of exposure. So if a child was excluded on day 5, they could take the COVID test. If it was negative, they could come back. So although there was interruption to learning, it was about 5 days of interruption, which is still problematic, of course, but certainly 2 weeks is a very long time, especially given the high level academics that your son, the classes he's taking. And by the way, congratulations, he's got a heavy course load. And I think it's wonderful that he has the merit scholarship. You should be really proud of him. It's not an easy course load. And we're hoping that we can do what we can to support you and to support others. So in response to those types of things, Dr. McKay and I met with the union yesterday. Ms. Smith, our president, was there along with some other reps. We met with the administration today, and we do have a shift or a pivot, which is what we've been doing through COVID, unfortunately, for almost the last 2 years. And we'll be providing Zoom access effective Monday. It is quite similar to what we did last year. It's not as easy as flipping a switch, so I do apologize for the delay in getting that out to the community. Some of the things that we worked on, and a letter did go out. I'll summarize kind of briefly and then maybe talk about some of the particulars. So because most teachers are planning traditional in-person lessons, even now going into an orange status, we're asking a 24-hour grace period before students can access a class via the Zoom link. So for example, children right now and continuing through this Zoom access period are marked remote present, right? So when a link, when you go into Genesis in the morning and the teacher goes to take their attendance, they would notice that a child is marked remote present. That will be a cue for them to set up a Zoom link. They have 24 hours to shift their lesson. If you think about it, teachers have planned maybe tests or quizzes. At the high school, we're not recommending that teachers give tests or quizzes virtually. It's not in the best interest of our children or our teachers. So they might delay giving that test or quiz. They might change their lesson from group work to more direct instruction because they know they've got 3 or 4 or 5 or 2 kids that are on remote instruction. So there's a 24-hour grace period before students can access the class, but the teacher will automatically notice set up the Zoom link as soon as they see remote present for anybody who's on their roster. And that's K-12. So on day 2, the teacher would open their classroom via Zoom to live instruction during that period when they're quarantined. So, and this is a little bit different for elementary school. If you think about it, our middle school and high school have periods, right? Periods 1 through 8. During this period is math, this period is language arts. So the elementary school teachers, the time would vary, but that information would go out to the parents and they might have the link open for literacy instruction for an hour or math instruction for a half hour. The benefit that we have right now at Cedar Mountain and at Rolling Hills is that our faculty, everybody has done a tremendous job at the elementary levels. They're very old school. They've been handing out packets and they've worked really well up until this point. But if you think about it, 5 days out with a packet is doable for a 7-year-old who has parents or a parent or a grandparent who's assisting. So that practice will continue at Cedar Mountain and Rolling Hills, right? So the packets of information are still provided, but now there's also the additional Zoom link so that parents know that the child can be on the computer and have the Zoom access so they can get live instruction from the classroom teacher. Students will continue to be marked remote present during the entire quarantine period. And regardless of whether or not a child uses the Zoom access option, of course, we want them to check Schoology for their daily work because that's still the place where teachers keep a lot of the information. The Zoom links will be posted on Schoology. That's where we've been posting them for the last almost 2 years. So it makes sense to keep that same practice. And students can choose to come into the Zoom session. So we're not going to mark a child absent if they don't come into the Zoom session. I mean, we really, in my opinion, we really need to be flexible and provide access to learning. This is not punitive in any way. We don't want to hurt children in any way. The Zoom link is there. Of course, the child can access the Zoom link. They're not going to be marked absent from the Zoom link. They are responsible for the work, right? So it behooves them to zoom into the class and to pay attention and of course to be responsible for the work. But they're not going to be marked absent if they don't show up. This is really designed for quarantine students only. The one thing that we're trying to avoid is that last year when we had hybrid, right, which was a little bit different because we were in cohorts. So in the hybrid, it was blue. Do you remember the blue, gold, right? So teachers would have the blue children in front of them and the gold children on the Zoom. This is just a little bit different because it's not really designated by cohort. It's designated, God forbid, when a child ends up quarantined. But last year, what started to happen was that we had children who were taking a virtual course. And unfortunately, it happened at the high school, probably more so than other places. I'm tired, I can't get on the bus. I don't feel like going, right? And while we understand that, we really do want children to be in school, and we're providing this option to assist our quarantine children who unfortunately have been a close contact by no fault of their own, as opposed to, a child who, for whatever reason, just is unable to get to school. And if that happens, we work with families too, right? So I wanted to add that We're maintaining the virtual academic mentors. I sent out a letter earlier in the week, then I sent out another letter this week. And then I'm just going to pass out for the board, but we upped the access for virtual academic mentors again. You'll also see on the agenda that we're adding virtual academic mentors, but we've now also added a QR code. So when children are going to go home, unfortunately, right? And the mom or the dad or somebody's picking up the child, they get this paper that says all the things that I just talked about with the Zoom access, but then they have a QR code that they can scan right on their phone and go right to opt into the virtual academic mentor. So we're really just trying to provide ease of use for that as much as possible. Having the Zoom access option as well as the virtual academic mentors, it actually provides more access for Vernon students than anybody else in the county. So although we are a little late to the game on this, I'm pleased that we're going to be offering more than what other folks are offering for the children during a really difficult time. I don't know if Chuck wants to add to things I missed. maybe.
Tonight, we're going to approve, the board is going to approve more faculty members.
Yes.
For that program, to expand it and to bring more expertise in as well. And of course, as Mr. Vino pointed out, we now have the program set up for Monday. And this is a heavy lift for our teachers. So I just want to shout out to all of them for their work. They do great work. They have been in contact with students who are quarantined, and we hope that this is a process where students have more access to them without too much being put on our teachers.
Okay, do members of the board have questions?
Yeah, I do. Oh, go ahead, Martin.
I just have one question. You mentioned that during the 14-day quarantine, there would be no testing. Okay. Do you see that as an issue given something like math, let's say, where, you have 3 days and then 10 days after that, the class could have moved on to a completely different thing. So the kids are expected to come back and take the test on something they learned 2 weeks ago. Do you see an issue with that? Because
Yeah.
You want to go first?
No, go ahead.
I think we probably both have suggestions. Like, obviously, it's really important to assess skills and knowledge, particularly in something like math, which is really cumulative, right? I mean, when you learn one concept, every concept kind of builds on top of each other. The reason we were really looking at having tests in school, unfortunately, last year, particularly at the high school more than any other places, we were really dealing with a lot of cheating. It became easy, right? I mean, kids were home, they had their phones next to them. So we really are trying to build back our rigor and our academic pride in our district. And that's going to take time because we had 18 months of like this very fragmented, weird stuff happening. If I were the math teacher and I felt the need to assess a child who was home, I would probably create an individual assessment for that child that maybe covered the same content as the rest of the class, but it had different questions, right? So I think there are ways that teachers can shift a little bit to make sure they're keeping up so the children are not falling behind. But the impetus behind it was really just so that that we're trying to keep people honest in the test taking process.
We did say in the memo we put out today, all quizzes and tests will be taken when the student returns unless otherwise specified by the teacher. And again, teacher autonomy is very, very important.
Okay. The only reason I bring it up is because a couple of the kids that I know are a little bit nervous about it. They're afraid that if they go into quarantine, that they're going to have to come back and get hit with 3, 4, 5, 6 tests.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
no.
they are.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, in a 2-week period of time, there's quizzes and tests that add up. I mean, if you have 5 classes and you have 1 test in each, you're coming back to take 5 tests or quizzes, plus the work that you just did in the next week. So it could be pretty nerve-wracking.
I understand the anxiety. That makes sense. I mean, our teachers aren't punitive either, right? I mean, they're going to understand that they do need to assess children to find out where they are, but they're also not going to overload children if there's no reason to. Do you know what I mean? We just have to work through it. It's a valid point for sure. But I do think that our folks will shift where they need to, to accommodate, the needs of our students, especially when you think about it, middle school and high school, you could have 6 or 7 different courses, right? Where you don't want to come back and have a test in every subject and just be overloaded, right?
I guess that's not the message the kids got today.
Yeah.
They got the message that there will be no testing, and they were a little nervous about it.
Yeah.
So just some feedback, that's all.
Okay, thanks.
So I think this is great that we're doing this. I'm glad you're keeping the mentor program because I do think that having that in addition to the Zoom is really great, since we had trouble last year with Zoom and virtual only. I'm concerned about the remote present policy because I feel that we need to have a way to know whether these kids are actually being educated. We're offering it, but we're not checking in any way, shape, or form, and we're marking them present. So to me, that means we won't know. We won't know whether
Teachers who have the students, here.
well, didn't you say that they're not going to take attendance?
Well, they're not, but they will know that their students have been attending.
And doing and participating and doing the
Yeah.
work. So the attendance is a track to be there. Here's what happened last year, and you'll understand. Children zoomed in, right? They turned on their camera, maybe when the teacher started the instruction.
Trust me when I say I know what happened last year.
Sorry.
You know I know.
I know. And then what happened was that the teacher would turn to like the hybrid or the group on the screen and they'd be like, Karen or Jennifer, and it was like cricket, right? Like children disappeared. But here's the challenge, right? Short of somebody going to the house and saying, please get on the camera, right? It's very difficult. As a parent, I dealt with that as well. But we didn't want to penalize children, but we want to provide the access. So while we're not keeping attendance, because right now, even prior to the Zoom access, they were marked remote present, right? Children on Schoology or on that 10-day isolation who were testing after days 5, they were still marked remote present because it wasn't their fault. We
If
didn't.
they're on school.
Here's the thing. I'm sorry. What I was going to say is that the state didn't change the absence attendance policy, and that's a huge issue. So for example, if you think pre-COVID, you'll probably remember, some of you might have even gotten letters as a parent of younger children. When a child is out 5 days, you get a letter saying, hey, your child's out 5 days. You get a letter out 10 days, then at 18 days, it's actually 10% of the attendance, 180 days. By law, we're supposed to send these letters. That hasn't changed, but now we have all of these restrictions on when children can't come to school because of isolation requirements through the Department of Health. So we were just trying to balance it where we're not marking attendance against them, but teachers will still be monitoring when the children are on the Zoom access and how they are completing the work. So we're trying to find a way to balance.
Yeah, I see
not
I see the
penalizing
problem
kids.
because I know what you're, I understand what you're saying. And I do know what happened last year.
Yeah.
But the idea of just, and I didn't like it when I didn't know about it before when we were quarantining these kids and not having Zooms and just marking them all present. I wasn't aware of that. I just think that's a problem from a record keeping standpoint, because then when we get to the end of the year, even during this, right? You're saying teachers will know. Teachers are, our poor teachers, like they're going to be back where they were last year, trying to figure out, okay, I'm teaching to these kids in the room, teaching to these kids over here. How are the kids at home doing? I don't see an easy way for them to know other than tests, which we're not giving, or schoolwork that's being turned in maybe. But it feels a little, I don't know, it feels a little off to me to just mark them all present, because we won't know if they're, we won't know what they're
But so
doing. We won't know if they're doing work. We won't know if they're going to Zooms.
But what would we do with that information if we knew, right? So like, what is the goal? Is the goal to provide the resources and get the children to learn as best as possible? Or is it to know if they're attending a Zoom or not?
I think
How
it's-
is that information?
I think it's
relevant?
important to know going along, right? Because if you know 3 days in that a child isn't going on Schoology and isn't coming to Zooms, then you can intervene, right? Otherwise, you're just going to have the kid miss 2 weeks of school. And then it's kind of a snowball. You know how that goes. You miss 2 weeks, you come back, you know.
But do we want our teachers focusing
No.
on one
No.
student
Well-
in a class of this? That would be that our teachers would be focusing on just that one student. And I don't think that works for the whole.
So I'm wondering about the mentor though. Like, I'm wondering, could the mentor somehow, do a check of like, did you watch the Zoom today? So-and-so, what did you do today? Like, could that person take sort of attendance, like to find out what the student is doing? I know they don't all opt in, so maybe that's not perfect. I just think we need to try, to know.
I can share
I don't know.
a little bit on the mentors, the virtual academic mentors. A lot of times they're being added to the Schoologies for the children because we've been meeting with the virtual academic mentor. So for example, one of the concerns is that the virtual academic mentor right now might not be your, 10th grade chemistry teacher, right? And your child's in 10th grade chem, might be in whatever, in 8th grade, something else teacher. But the virtual academic mentors are getting in touch with the regular teachers and adding them, they're being added to Schoology so that they can help children get caught up or review with them what they worked on during class. They might not have content area expertise, which is a concern, but at least they help balance that. The other thing I was going to say regarding remote present, last year, when we shifted with the state, remote present was the only change in the attendance policy at the state level. And the state actually encouraged us to use remote present to categorize children that were falling into that category. So that's the only reason that we've kind of relied on the accountability piece, because if not, I mean, remember, there are so many things calculated based on student attendance. Some, school progress reports and even some New Jersey CUSAC things are measured
know,
by.
I
Yeah,
understand
so
the
that's
concern,
there's a whole other piece, right? Is the state accountability. And that sometimes is why we're kind of stuck with remote present for now.
Charlie, you were trying to say something.
Yeah, one thing real quick is, are we thinking about access for these kids? Because the kids who don't have internet at home or they don't have a Chromebook or whatever, I hope that's part of the plan.
Yes,
But-
that was addressed today.
Okay.
I can speak to that if you want.
No,
Go ahead, you have a
okay, as long as you
question.
guys
Yeah,
cover,
we
that's
took
good
care
for
of
me. But I wanted to add on what's Jen's saying, because it's not one student that's gone. We have several students that will be gone from every class, right? Because it's a contact trace and and now imagine you have a classroom that you have, it could be from anywhere, a small number for 10% to 50% of the kids out of that classroom. If they're home and they're learning remotely and it's optional and it's not being like a hybrid class where they're watching it as the class is going on, if these kids fall behind, it's not only those kids that are going to suffer, it's when those kids get back into the classroom, that teacher will now have to slow down the class. The rest of the kids have been there, because how can they move forward in that classroom when half of the kids don't know what's going on? But even if it's a small number, 10% of the kids are falling behind. I mean, it happens. I remember being in school. Our teachers are great. Let me tell you, I mean, I got a teacher who's been absent for a good part of the year here. Every day I get an email from her, telling them, going over, making sure the kids are up to date. We have great teachers. And I don't think any teacher in our district would say, oh, well, we have, 3 kids who can't pass this test. They're going to stop and say, let's make sure everybody knows what's going on. And that's my concern. If we make this optional, you have that component where you have some kids that will pay attention and maybe join in, but it's got to be consistent. The teachers have to be doing it. I understand a lower grade where you're going to say, okay, it's time, we're going to go in groups. You can't go, we can't be on the Zoom the whole time. But if you're in a math class in the high school or English, even an English class or anything in the high school, even in middle school, you have to almost at least be listening the whole entire time, or you're going to fall behind. These kids are not going to go.
So I hear the concerns that you and Jen are bringing up, but my philosophy on this would be that we provide the resources and the ability to do this to our faculty, to the students and the families. And then we put our trust in the educators to monitor the progress of students, to assess our students, and to determine the needs of the students on a daily basis. I wouldn't want to see us at the board table saying it's our opinion that we need to be monitoring attendance, so therefore we should be doing this. I'd want to know what our administrators and our faculty think about that, because they're the ones who monitor the progress of our students and who are responsible for that.
Yeah, fair
I'm not
point. But
concerned about, I'm sorry. Jen, if you
I
mind.
was just going to say, I just felt like last year we learned that that's a monumental task when you have kids home and kids, at school. So it's really hard to monitor the students. And I'm not saying taking attendance is the right thing. I mean, I don't know what the right thing is. I'm just concerned about, we learned from experience last year that some kids, when they're home and maybe the parents are at work, maybe the parents aren't at work, who knows? They're just not going to show up, or maybe they're going to have technical trouble. I don't know, for whatever reason. And I feel my gut says that we need to come up with a way to really, know if that's happening, so we can try to intervene before it becomes 2 weeks of missed. I think my kid,
But my point though is that
you miss 2 days, it's a big deal.
Teachers and the parents and administrators who would intervene with the student.
Because
not the
they'll
board.
know that they're not on.
Yeah.
They'll
Yeah.
see that they didn't do
Like,
the link or what have you.
But that gives
So
us
they'll
two sets of rules, okay? We take attendance and we hold children accountable when they're in school. So now when they're remote, we're not going to hold them accountable and we're not going to take attendance. That makes no sense.
Well, when you're remote, you're in a situation that's a non-traditional school setting.
I
So it's
get
going to
it, but-
require a degree of flexibility.
Well, there's two different things. I mean, I would say, you said we're not going to hold them accountable and we're not going to take attendance. So we're not taking attendance, but we are holding them accountable because children are still responsible for the work, right? And for the understanding and the comprehension, the participation. But so are we, right? So are we. In other words, our teachers are teaching, our students are learning, we hope, right? The only way we're going to know is when we assess and we have these continued discussions, like Charles shared about getting emails on a regular basis. I mean, I spoke with teachers this afternoon from Rolling Hills who talked about a tremendous amount of communication that goes on between the teachers and home all the time anyway, right? Sending home information. I have this with your child. Don't forget. This is just ongoing. And the one benefit, if you will, from after, I guess, being fully virtual is that I think our teachers and our families are communicating better now than they were. I don't want to remind us of where we were a year ago at this time. I mean, it was really a difficult time in our community and in our country. So I think our teachers have done a tremendous job on communicating and our parents are grateful for it. And our parents are asking, you know, I need some additional information. My child doesn't understand this. They're falling behind, whatever. And I'm not saying it's 100% all the time, but I do think that it's happening across the board in a much more consistent way than it was before. So the onus is on both, right? Our teachers will be utilizing the Zoom access so that children can Zoom in. Teachers are teaching. Children, we hope, are learning. You're right. We don't know if the screen is blank, but if a child doesn't show up to Zoom for a couple of days, or the teacher says, hey, Karen, do you want to respond to that? And the child doesn't respond, then we know that there's no engagement, and then we've got to reach out and figure out what's happening. And that's the
You might
communication.
have misunderstood my point. I meant accountable for attendance, not necessarily accountable for work.
Oh, okay.
We hold them accountable for attendance when they're here.
I just think as board members, let's not add another layer. Like, I'm grateful for the fact that the administration and the faculty and the union got together, came up with a plan, and let's let them do this plan and not add layers. And we'll get feedback on it. We always do. And then we'll go from there. But like, I just think we should let life happen here and see how this works. And I'm confident that there's this layer that's going to work. It's a better situation than we had a couple of days ago.
I completely agree with that. I totally support this plan. I don't mean that what I said was not meant as a criticism. I just had a question about it because, you know, the remote present policy, and I'm sure it's happening everywhere that's doing this. I mean, I'm sure it's not just us. I just think it's something we could watch and think about. That's all. But I don't mean to take away from what we've come up with, because I do think it's a really positive move. And yeah.
And I mean, think about the quick turnaround time.
Yeah.
You know, we had some feedback that parents were asking for, you know, more access, which is a great thing. It's a great thing that we have our families reaching out to us and saying, look, we really want our children to have more access to education. I mean, this is a great problem to have. And then the other great thing is that our administration gives a call over to our union and they get together within a day and discuss it with teachers and administrators and the union. I mean, like, that's incredible. And I think that we should say kudos to our district because they really were very cohesive in a very quick turnaround time. And thank you. And Vicki, thank you for your time and effort.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly what I would expect. Because we have students like the father who just came here. And I even know as a parent what I went through, and there was nothing available.
Right.
So, I mean, I understand you're getting through those and so am I, but that's what's expected. So, I mean, but I do actually have some questions. So I keep hearing the term for students on quarantine. Does this also apply for students who meet criteria for exclusion? Like, just so everyone knows what exclusion is, when there's those two lists, like let's say your child has a stuffy or whatever it is, drippy nose, sore throat, something.
So then they're not allowed to come to school, but they're not on quarantine because maybe they weren't close contact. So then you're going to take them for a test, or maybe the test comes out negative, but your child's still just sick. You're not obviously going to send a coughing child back, even if the COVID test came back negative. So then even students on exclusion,
Yes.
okay, they still qualify. So then
Yes.
are they also written as the same remote? Okay.
They are. You know why? I'm sorry, Teresa, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the reason why is that if a child has to go get a test, it might be 48 hours. And they may have a stuffy nose, but otherwise they're well, right? They're not, they don't have COVID. Again, we don't want the attendance to count against them. If we mark them as sick for those 2 days, right? They're sick or they're not in school. The state is really particular. You're absent or you're present. The fact that they gave us a remote present last year was quite a shock. So we didn't want that to count against them. So the state said you can mark them as remote present while you're waiting for those tests to come back. So as soon as the teacher sees remote present in their Genesis, they don't know whether a child is a close contact or they're COVID positive or they are excluded, you know what I mean, waiting on test results, but they know they'll pivot to provide Zoom access for those children.
So then, perfect example, let's say we have a little child who, you know, has really bad cold symptoms. COVID test comes back negative after 2 or 3 days. And then the child obviously is still sick. You're not going to send them back to school. So then as long as that child is out, they can stay remote. It's not just based on the COVID test, like, okay, now it's negative, you can't come back. I mean.
No, but if it's negative and they're marked, if it comes back negative, we would expect the child to be in school unless they don't come.
But
Then
what if they're
out,
like
then
still sick? Like,
then it's just a sick, then they're just sick.
they're just sick. So then do they still have access to the remote?
I mean,
No.
well, yes and no. I mean, I'm going to assume that the link is a class link. And I certainly can't see a teacher saying, oh, you're remote present, so you can come into the room and you can't, you know?
It's okay. If
But
you
if
don't have
they're
an
not
answer now, maybe we can
quarantining-
just look into the exclusion,
well,
only
I'm-
because I'm thinking,
yeah.
let's say you have a little child who's
No,
still
no, 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 no. On
coughing.
the exclusion, I have an answer. On
Oh.
the other part, there's probably not going to be a perfect answer, and I have to impress upon that to folks.
Yeah,
right?
because that's, it's so gray, even
There's
as for
going to be lots of
parents.
gray.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much gray, and I'm sure, you know, on the teacher's behalf, administrators, parents, community, because it's like, well, their test came out negative, but they're still really coughing and sick, so you're not going to be like, here, go back to school after 2 days. Like you wouldn't do that to a child who, even if there was no COVID, you wouldn't send a sick child back to school in 2 days. So that's what I'm trying to get an idea of, because like, yes, you're excluded because you meet these symptoms, but
Right.
your test came out negative, but then we can't put you back in school, but you know, but I don't know. That was one question. The other question are the lessons being recorded? Or, so let's say a teacher is a Zoom, is that recorded and then that is put in Schoology for future? So if a child misses the lesson, they miss the lesson?
No.
No recordings? Okay.
Isn't that, last year, that was sort of up to the teacher though, no?
Are they allowed to record though?
Could they
They can
opt?
if they- if they
They
want
want
to.
to.
Okay, so it's up to
So
the
it's
teacher.
optional for, okay.
Okay, and then for the older grades, let's say middle enough, because they're, let's say, independent enough to log on. So the older grades, they'll just follow their regular schedule. So maybe like a phys ed, they won't log in because, you know, but maybe their English class, ELA, they'll log on to, and they'll just follow a regular day schedule. Then how, okay, so that's good. So then for the little ones, how would a parent or caregiver know when to log in? Like you were saying, 1 hour for math.
Right.
How would they know that time?
One of the concerns that our elementary teachers had today was exactly that.
Yeah.
So the idea simply is that they can't be on Zoom the whole day long. They're elementary
Right.
students. So we have to identify the exact time that they'll have 20 minutes of literacy, 20 minutes of math, or 30 minutes, whatever it is. And that is a discussion that the administrators are presently having in the elementary building.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking of all those poor little like third grade parents who are like, oh, not yet, oh, not yet.
No.
You're like, you know, like you're trying to log on, but I know, that's why I just was wondering how that would, the older kids, it's more set, that makes sense.
Mhm.
And then last but not least, I wouldn't be a chairperson of special services without asking, what's specifically being done for students with IEPs 504s?
The special ed classrooms, of course, will be open in the same way that these for every student. And then what we tried to do, and you'll notice it with our new teacher mentors. We've tried to bring some more special ed teachers on as well for teacher mentors. And we're trying to work with those folks so that they're aligned with special ed students.
Okay, so then I'm just thinking like, so then let's say little kids, resource rooms are going to be Zoomed.
Well, that's what we're hoping. The quick turnaround has not allowed us to finish everything up in detailed forms. I did have a lengthy conversation with a couple of the principals this afternoon, early evening. We're doing our best to make sure that those things are done as well.
Okay, so then maybe the board can get an update on that maybe next week or something, because I understand that's, it's a whole extra layer. But, okay, thank you.
Can I say something?
Sure.
First, I just want to say, listen, I don't need anything. I'm not trying to take away from the hard work everyone did. I mean, this right here is great. I like the little barcode. I like this, the fact that you guys are trying something. I like the fact that you changed something mid-course here. We changed it, wasn't working. I'm not trying to administrate, and I don't honestly, how you guys keep attendance is up to you, how you keep attendance. I'm concerned about, we're making sure the education is getting to our students. Those kids that are home that want to learn, my daughter was home. She was fearful for not being able to go to school. When I was a kid, I would have been home. Yeah, I have COVID. I had COVID all year. But these kids want to learn and if anything, that's something that you guys have pushed down, the administration, the teachers, everyone has pushed down, because if these kids want to learn so badly, you guys are doing something great there. But we got to make sure it's that they get in the equal time at home. That's my biggest concern. And if this is not, are we going to review this? And not us. Are you guys going to be constantly reviewing this? Because like in a week from now or 2 weeks from now, are we going to see if it's working? And if it's not, we should be seeing changes in progress. Because again, it's about our kids' education, and we're unfortunately had 2 terrible years, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to make a third one, let's keep the ball rolling. We need to give our staff, all the tools that they need to deliver the product. The education.
Yeah.
I mean, avoid the burnout of
Exactly.
teaching.
I mean, we had
to a
partnership
student
meetings a couple of months ago, and everybody
If we
working
if
beyond.
we could double our entire faculty, that would be effective. No, I'm being serious. I mean, that's the problem, right? I mean, we're at a total shortage in so many areas. And the only way to really do this, well, one way to do it really well is if you have a teacher and like a teacher's aide in every single classroom so that they can help navigate. But that we struggle to find enough aides on a regular basis, right? So these are some of the challenges, but I agree. I mean, the resources and the support is really, really essential, because it's a heavy lift and it's 2 years in a row and people are really tired. It's hard.
So on the lower grades, we're not recording lessons.
Unless the teacher, in some cases, teachers have banks of lessons, like teachers recorded portions of lessons last year. Like if I'm teaching multiplication and I really have a way that I want to do it and I've taught it, I'm recording it and I have it on my computer and I'm using it. So I don't have to record it again. It's just it's a smart way. It's people being efficient with their own resources, right? But we're not recording Zooms as they're happening. There may be teachers who choose to record a portion of their lesson so that they have it on school, to send to a child who couldn't get on. That's something that's really as per teacher. I mean, we're not going to direct people to do that either way.
And then the teachers are going to be the ones who will allow the kids into the Zoom meeting, the children into the Zoom meetings.
Right.
So there won't be any issue with children who have compromised situations, special needs kids, that people outside of the class will be able to see.
I'm not sure.
Their privacy. I don't want to violate any children's privacy.
Like somebody else can't get access to the Zoom link.
Oh, I
Is that what you mean?
understand. No, I mean, the Zoom link is, it's a Schoology, it's on Schoology, and it's on the Schoology that the children
And the
access.
teacher would let them in, and
They have a waiting room.
Right.
just the classes,
Yeah.
people in the class. Okay.
Yes, yes.
So if I'm a remote parent whose child is in school, I can't get in and see what's going on in class, just the.
Correct.
Okay.
Just one more question. So, and I just want to get, so every day, if I'm a student let's say for middle school above or fourth grade or higher, right?
Right.
They're gonna go in every class period onto the Zoom link and just the beginning of the period, they will begin. Whether the teacher says, okay, at 20 minutes or so, we're gonna cut off Zoom, you guys should be good, work, use, silent work or whatever. And then at the grade level underneath that, it's gonna be, we're gonna set times out.
Yes.
And say English here, math here, whatever, coloring, whatever they do, and phonics.
And they'll have the connection to the one student that's out of their class or the
Right.
two students out of their class, and they will send that information.
Okay, and the other thing, I'm sorry too, I keep on thinking this, the 24 hours. I mean, it is crucial that, I don't know if I totally agree with the way you guys are doing. Unless I heard you wrong, the teacher is gonna take attendance in the morning and see in Genesis that someone is remote. I think they should get a little more heads up, when possible. It's something we can't, what's the shock? She did plan out the whole week, the teacher, and now, oh my God, what's gonna happen? And then they have to rearrange everything, and then we're pushing everything back again. Again, we're taking away from education, we're slowing down the classroom, or whatever it is to accommodate this, so. A little concerning, but you guys see how it goes, and please keep up on it.
About how many kids are quarantining or waiting results tests now? About
6% of our population.
6?
Mhm.
Which is what?
170.
Wow.
So do we,
And we're lower than others. We're lower than other places.
so we have 179 students right now waiting. Do we even have no, I didn't realize we were that high. So then do we have enough of the virtual academic mentors?
For when a person is quarantined, then they request for the mentors. And yes, right now, we have a list of 10 waiting for mentors, and the minute that these people are approved, some of them have already been assigned people. So yes, we have plenty of mentors.
I think one of the other things that would be really helpful too for the community, because I mean, you two have, really tried to work and, explain everything. But just putting out the terms, like people use virtual, remote, they use them interchangeably and they're not. They're very different. So like letting the community know what each is, so that way they understand. So that way they can understand the full scope of what's happening. So like right now, this is a big step, moving into remote instruction. Like that's a really good thing. And then the virtual academic tutors don't necessarily have to be in the same grade. But that's, the program that's set up at the moment and what they can do. So maybe letting the parents know in writing
Right.
what the virtual academic mentor does. So that way it's clear up front to them. So that way they know, maybe just, I don't know, possibly a little book of terms or so, or how it all works.
This usually is where Charles comes in, but can we put this on the website or something? 'Cause it was hard to find a lot of information on our website. All of this stuff that just came out, it's really a lot of good information that people will need to access all the time.
Yeah, can we just have like a COVID tab? And
On the upper right.
oh, it is.
Yeah,
And then will that all be?
Every communication the last 3 weeks is there.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Do we have,
You're the best, Matt.
do we have the testing facility? Because I want to say, the person, I think it was the secretary, one of the secretaries I called, they told me about the place in Vernon now at the, the urgent care over there where, the telephone company used to be.
Oh,
And I never knew that. So I had to get, the testing option is out now, is it? Or is it?
the what?
The testing option is out, or
Now it is,
Yeah.
yeah, because we're in orange.
even though, we're just prepared, if we can get that stuff up there and let people know. I mean, our faculty seems to be very knowing where to go, but if you don't
Yeah.
get in touch with them, if we have this stuff up there, let's put where we should go, this time frame, the 5 to 7 days. Make sure we put it not available now, but
Yeah, that's the challenge, right? But we can certainly keep that information accessible for folks.
I think from the beginning, we've tried to stress that like flexibility is the name of the game because, we have so many different diverse student populations. We have young children, we have older students, we have special needs students, and each are going to have different needs. One size fits all approach is not going to work for every classroom and for every student. But if we treat this as an additional resource that's available to the educators and to our parents and students, and if we go into it with patience and flexibility, especially as it's rolled out in the next week or two, I hope that it can make it a bit easier to reach the students with instruction when they're in the unfortunate circumstances of not being able to be in our school buildings.
Yeah, I hope so too.
This is, after, if we go to red, what does that mean? How does that? does
Believe it or
change?
not, there's no virtual learning. I mean, that was clear from the governor this year. In fact, we can't even use virtual learning for snow days, which I'm against, by the way. Dr. McKay and I have this argument all the time. I like the snow. And I should clarify that. So the regulation regarding pivoting to fully remote is the governor would have to call a state of an emergency, and we'd have to have at least 3 days of emergent or inclement weather before we could go to the 4th day, which would count for virtual learning. So it almost doesn't pay to do a 1 day snow day virtual
Right.
learning because it doesn't count until we get to the 4th day. So right now, there is no,
So if we go to red, then the same procedures are in place.
right now,
for
as
that.
far as I know, yes, that could change. But I will tell you in conversation with the rest of the county superintendents today, just via emails, I mean, nobody else is planning on pivoting to fully remote because we can't. Right now, it was a directive.
But
At
some,
the beginning
some
of the
schools
year.
have already in New Jersey. There's been
Um,
schools that went closed for 14 days.
But if they close for 14 days, that's different. That's not pivoting to fully remote. Fully remote is an indefinite,
Oh, okay.
everybody on virtual for an indefinite amount of time. The Department of Health could say, you have multiple outbreaks in the such and such school, and we recommend that you do a 14-day closure for the entire, Main Avenue school in the such and such school
Okay.
district. But pivoting to fully remote is different. And I think the reason the governor said no is because the Department of Health can do a 14-day shutdown based on excessive cases. So we do have high numbers, and I know it's not popular, but mask wearing is important. Hand washing is important. Vaccination is important. And I know these are all things that have become such political hot buttons, but here we are almost 2 years in, and we're still dealing with a very difficult way to administer education. So
then just building on something you said, I just thought was interesting. Like you said, the Department of Health could say close, was it the Main Street School? Is that guidance or recommendation, or
Guidance.
is that directive? So
It's
the
guidance.
district does not have to follow it.
correct.
So if the Department of Health says you really should close XYZ school, it's completely up to the school district if they close or
It's
not?
up to the superintendent. Thank you. It's not fun again.
So
Yeah.
So
sorry.
then.
But nobody has told us
how-
we have to close, so we're
I
okay.
was gonna
right
say, so then how would parents be notified? Because I'm just thinking, parents are sending their children to school with the concept that if the environment, I'm just gonna use the term, becomes unsafe, like at a certain level, then, the school will close or something. So how would parents know that the Department of Health is recommending that XYZ school close for, what'd you say, 14 days?
How would they know if the Department of Health recommended it?
Yeah, like how would a
would know
parent
it-
be able to say?
Like if you chose not to follow it, how would they know
Yeah, if
that
it's
that
just, it's
was?
not a directive, it's just guidance.
Mhm.
Then like, I'm just thinking, how would parents like be
They-
able to say?
They probably wouldn't know. And I mean, I know that's not the answer people want to have, but I'm here as the superintendent of schools. I've been navigating through a horrific, probably the worst time in my career of being a superintendent. I've been doing this almost 15 years, and the last 2 years have not been a lot of fun. But we have followed the guidance every step of the way from the day this started. I have followed the guidance. Chuck has followed the guidance. Our administrators have followed the guidance. Unfortunately, we had students put out for 14 days last week. I was very upset by that, but I had no choice because the Department of Health recommended it, right? So we've always followed the guidance, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Okay, so then I got you. So if the Department of Health gives guidance that we should close the school
Right.
for 14 days, then it would be closed.
We do. I will tell you that other communities are not doing that in other parts of the state. But we have chosen in the county, the entire county, as far as I know, Sussex County's been pretty good on deciding to stick with what the Department of Health tells us to do, so.
And are we close? I don't know what, the threshold? Because I know last year, right? Didn't Lounsbury had to close for 2 weeks?
Yeah, they, you know what, and things have changed. There was a certain percentage last year. I remember, or no, I know what it was. If you had so many cases within a 2-week time frame,
That were unrelated.
yes, that's what it was. I think it was 2 or more unrelated within 2 weeks or something. So, I don't remember if that guidance is still in the current document.
It's
I
not.
have to go look.
No, it's not.
I don't think it is, but I don't know what the threshold is. To be honest, the Department of Health, they'll just, I mean, they'll let us know, like we knew Friday, when we had, you know, a certain number of cases in one class, that we were gonna look at a 14-day, isolation or 14-day quarantine instead of 10, because they're worried, that the numbers, and unfortunately, numbers increased all over the state. Whether it's due to Thanksgiving or whatever. I mean, I don't know the particulars, but I don't know the threshold currently. And I think it depends. Part of it is based on transmission rates in the area and the positivity rates, and that the Department of Health monitors all that, and then they would give us the information.
Right. And then, my follow-up question, then, are we planning just in case?
What?
And for if we had to close the school, if you had to close the school for 14 days, you don't have to really answer it right now, but do we have a plan to put in place that we can just turn the switch and say, all right, we're going to plan B now because we're closed? Because we can't,
I know.
that's going to be pretty hard.
Sure,
on-
to not
on
have a
everybody.
plan. I
Yeah.
understand. Yep.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the long-range facilities plan.
All right, so, I'm gonna try to pull up the document on my computer, but I guess a couple of weeks ago, EI Associates, who is our architect of record, came and presented to the Buildings and Grounds Facilities Committee to talk about facilities projects. I don't know how we are supposed to come to some priorities, but at some point, Vernon Board of Education, we do need to prioritize some of this long list. And remember, there are only so many ways that these projects can be done, right? There's some ESSER funds, thankfully, right? ESSER 3. There's about $72,000 in money from the state in ROD grant facilities projects that's available to the Vernon Township School District. There's a referendum, which I'm not recommending. I'm just saying it's a thing that if we wanted to, there's maintenance reserve, right? And then there's future years of budget planning. So I'm not sure how the board wants to proceed in this regard, but at some point we are going to have to start planning some of these projects or tabling some of them, right? And prioritizing where the board feels these things should be happening for our district. So the floor is yours, that everybody has a copy of the report.
Well, their priorities were really in line with Buildings and Grounds priorities. I mean, we had identified them ahead of time. And then when they reported out, it really matched quite nicely. So, I think that we're in line. The only thing that we didn't assess was the tennis courts was something that
that they
kind of
found in their
came out of the
tour.
blue that we didn't realize. But I mean, the windows were definitely our priority. Glen Meadows Bridge was our priority. The tennis courts, like I said, snuck in there. Another one of the buildings that we didn't really we toured every little ounce of every little place, but except for the Plus building in the high school. They did bring that up. And they came up with some really creative ideas, to work on that, but that would definitely be something that we would have to put on. Anybody from Buildings
Kelly,
and Grounds? want-
did you ever look into that thing I brought up with the?
In the music room
Yeah.
with the acoustics, yes, that
Okay.
was a
Okay, great.
priority and that was a health concern
Okay, great.
as well.
Great. Just wanted to
So
make sure
that
was
is
correct.
identified and
Glen
at
Meadow.
the top in the priority list.
I mean, the important thing about this is they put some numbers
Yes.
Yes.
in these projects and
Which
that,
can change your priority.
right.
Well, I was surprised at the Windows number because I did think that that was a little low, I felt, I thought it was going to be, I thought it was going to be more than what they had said, so. And they said it was ever changing, that type of thing. So, and the other item that they said was the timing of doing the windows where normally you would have to do it at night, but now they're saying that we could possibly do it during the day. That would save us some money there, that kind of thing. Yeah, so.
They could work on a window in specific classroom, and
Right.
then just shut the
And
classroom down
and
for
shut the
that
classroom
day.
down, yeah,
That's it.
and that would definitely save us money.
Oh, yeah,
So,
for sure. The installation.
yeah, so you have some of the priorities that before we couldn't do the way we can do now because of the way the classrooms are situated and things like that. So I was really happy with that they came out with the same that, you know, we were thinking. And Bill, our BA, was impressed with buildings and grounds that we definitely identified everything that they did.
Martin's locked up.
Oh, Martin's right here.
Martin's right here.
Oh,
I just
No,
got your
I-
email.
I sent that a while ago.
I didn't even
So
look
quiet,
over
you
there.
didn't even know I was here.
Where is it? Sorry.
I was just gonna share with the board that Dr. McKay and I
Should check
have
first.
an upcoming meeting with Bill Sabo and with our new BA, Carolyn Joseph, who will start in January. So one of the things on that planning meeting will be to articulate some of the things from EI and the things that you're mentioning now, Kelly, just so that, because remember, the budget planning process is happening like now, right?
Yeah.
So expect this conversation to come back again.
Yeah.
Because we're really gonna have to be a little bit more purposeful and specific as to
Yeah.
where these buckets, right, where the money comes from, because you know, windows, the bridge, the tennis courts, the music room, that's several $1 million, right? So where does that fall in line with our budget, right? I mean, you know, do we allocate some money from maintenance reserve for some of these projects?
Well, it would come out of capital reserve.
Capital reserve, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I keep saying
Yeah.
maintenance reserve. So my point is that we really do, maybe in January, I'm guessing, would probably have to start determining how we want to allocate for some of these projects. So that was the purpose of putting it on the agenda.
Yeah, so I think that we should circle back again now that we have this report in buildings and grounds. And then we can report out to the full board.
Yeah, and I think that the finance committee should also begin conversations about how this is going to look in the budget next year. And, you know, because if we are going to be using the capital reserve to do these projects, that needs to be built into our budget for the 22-23 school year.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's good that we're starting the conversation now.
Yeah.
It's hard to have the conversation
know.
fully without a BA present.
We did try to have a finance committee meeting. It
Yes.
didn't quite work out.
Right,
but we
the-
tried.
yeah, the schedules didn't work
Buildings and
out,
grounds
but-
did quite well.
They did.
And
And we know which things can be done with the funding we've gotten too. Have we kind of like figured out?
we did
Because-
identify that, but not to the extent like Justin's saying where finance discussed it. So
Okay.
And these are large ticket items, right? I mean, some of these are really, really substantial, where in the past, if we've allocated money for projects in a school year, we know exactly what it is. We know what the finite number is. We know that it falls under preventative maintenance or whatever it might be. And we've had the ability to allocate that as we're sitting around developing our budget without a kind of a permanent full-time VA. It does kind of handcuff us a little bit. But I mean, look, I'm thrilled that we have a long-range facilities plan. I have to be honest, like Chuck and I were just talking about before the meeting, looking at it and saying like, these are priority items is a really, really important map for us to have to start planning for safety and health for our staff and our faculty and our students, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's a great tool and we want to try to maximize that tool so that
And
we
then
have
there
conversations
was
that talk
a,
about when to complete these things.
there was a shift also in furnishings in a room and how we utilize each room and you know, how to enhance student achievement with furnishings in the room and repurposing different rooms for different reasons. So there was a huge guidance piece with the high school and what we would do with the space by the library.
Right.
That was really interesting. So it was nice to have an educator walk us through all the buildings and talk about repurposing different rooms and the furnishings in those rooms. So that's something that's, you know, would be a great priority and that we could use some funds for to do that.
Because of the savings that we achieved from the pivot to virtual last year and the year before, and those funds being deposited into the capital reserve, you know, that's the only reason that we're even having this conversation,
Right.
because there would be no way that we'd be able to pay for these
No.
projects had we not saved those funds and put them into capital reserve. You know, we're talking about projects that really should have been done a decade ago.
Years
You know, a
ago.
decade ago when we were cutting budgets and cutting taxes, we should have been talking about a bridge that could have structural problems and that relates to the safety of our school buildings.
Well,
You know,
I
these
mean-
are important things.
Most of our projects are all maintenance related that
Yeah.
we, didn't pay attention to maintenance and we could have
Right.
really,
Yeah.
As we're making this plan, we putting this stuff on timeline. So we're replacing the windows because obviously I went to school here. I don't know how, what they got new paint on the walls, I think, and they moved some of the boxes, the shelves around, but things are the same.
Yeah.
For years, and not that nobody here probably around, but except for Chuck.
I was.
I was here a lot longer before.
But nothing has been never put in place to address this. You're right. How do we have a bridge that's failing?
Right.
How's that happen?
Yeah, that
We've
can't ever
never
happen.
put things in place. We never made the plan. So as we
Yeah.
make the plan to fix stuff, that stuff should be put at the end.
Yeah,
Because we
absolutely.
got to be coming back around to it.
You're absolutely
But
right.
that- I
And
mean,
I,
that
you
is
know,
definitely something that the board weighed in on a long time ago. Not this current board, but maybe other boards, and just kept on kicking the can.
Yeah.
And that is not the answer. We
No,
have to.
it's
keep up
not
with
at all.
maintenance,
you know, your parking lots, those should be on maintenance
Oh,
schedules.
yeah.
So that way you don't
Maintenance.
end up having to
Yeah.
completely redo a
Mhm.
parking lot.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that if we do it properly, we can get more out of the investment.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the
But-
preventative maintenance becomes less costly over the
Right.
years. Once
Yeah.
things are repaired and maintained, as opposed to now being behind the eight ball to really replace certain things.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think a priority for whoever becomes the permanent BA in the district should be to really properly manage the
Yeah.
facilities aspect and
Absolutely.
to work with our facilities director
Personnel. Mhm.
and personnel to make sure we're doing the stuff to make our facilities last longer and for them to be safer and healthier for our students.
Or more reason to use EI for what we hired them for, to consult with them on bringing, what our priorities, what kind of timelines we should be coming back to these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
The
they
other thing
they can
about
do that.
them that was good is, especially on the educational part, they had things that wouldn't cost almost any money. That
Yeah.
would increase the whole experience.
Mhm.
They brought up stuff that cost money, but they also brought up things that would be more subtle. That wouldn't cost the district. So they're
Right.
looking both ways. I
We
mean, the
did.
physical stuff is always expensive.
That piece of the project was really interesting, the educational piece.
Opened a lot of eyes for
yeah.
me.
Joe was amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun doing the walkthrough. with
He
them,
was,
so,
he was so
yeah.
much fun, and he was so excited about each room that we sat there for hours, right, Ray? Like, we were there for so long, because he was so engaging, so
Yeah.
it was nice.
So I think,
So I'd like to see us make these decisions based first on safety. Okay, because I think it's important to take any of these projects that pose any type of safety threat, the bridge, et cetera, and make those at the top line priority. But secondly, I'd like to see us take on the second run, stuff that we're losing money on, the windows, the HVAC, things where there's some type of return on the investment that we're gonna make, that we continually lose money on. Because I think we're losing a lot of money on those two things, especially the windows and the heating and cooling.
Yeah.
So it was quite funny.
Yeah.
My kid came home today and told me that they have to put ice packs on the heater to get it to turn on. So
Yeah.
I think these things are definitely, like you had said, been around for a long time.
We call that a workaround.
Well, and I think too, that as a
Creative.
student, when you walk into a building that's falling apart, or things are broken, or not
Or a
exactly
teacher.
where they should to be, or a teacher, there's a certain sense of the adults don't care about me. And when you walk into a building and you have pride in your building, and then you think to yourself, I'm gonna raise my kids here, I loved going to school here, there's something to be said about that as well. That it's just another way to really build some morale and build school pride, and show the students and the teachers and the staff and the faculty that we care about them and where they work and where they learn.
Yeah.
And to your point and Ray's point, there's a lot of little simple things that can be done too. When I first came to this school, when I first moved into town, I visited the high school, was sold on the district. It really was. Teachers were great, people were great, administration was great. And one of my children went to this school and they walked into the front lobby and I looked up and I said, really? The paint was literally falling down and chipping. And that's simple stuff. That's
Yeah.
that's
But
maintenance
that's
issue.
all maintenance, you know?
That's our maintenance guys, maybe with a scraper and a paintbrush, but what that was nobody's paying attention to it at that point in time.
or they didn't have the resources. They weren't given enough personnel or a large enough budget to get to everything they need to.
And then that's on us, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's on us. So we have to be very mindful of it. And I think that Buildings and Grounds have put a very strong focus on it. And we're going to get these projects done and we're going to have follow-up to them. Because before, when I first got on the board, I noticed that there was never any follow-up to anything. We would sit around here and talk about something. And then, you know, it just wouldn't get done. So there's a lot of follow-up now. I'm really proud of this board because I think that that's a key component to us is the follow-up skills.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great report. I did read through it. I thought it was wonderful.
Yeah,
you know,
they did a good
but
job.
to Karen's point, we need to put dates on it.
Yeah.
No, we are doing that. We just had to
Yeah.
get that first and wrap our heads around it. So thank you.
So I think, so the steps from here are that this will continue for the next month or so in the Buildings and Grounds and Finance
Correct.
Committees. They'll meet with the current interim BA and the incoming one,
Yes.
both interim BAs.
I wish I could find
Yeah.
like a permanent, but
Yes.
it's okay.
And, you know, this will be a conversation that develops into the budget season.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Okay.
So now we're going to shift that to your
Yes.
recommendation.
So I was, as we move into recommendations, I was going to ask to amend my section. I mean, obviously. I
That'll be
have-
recommendation 5, right?
Yeah, I was gonna add 5, but I'm gonna remove item 3.
Right.
Because there's really no reason to have that.
Okay.
No.
Right?
Okay, so recommendation 1.
Recommendation 1, it is recommended that the board approve the following faculty, staff resignations, retirements, terminations, leaves, transfers, assignment changes, appointments, stipend, salary adjustments, student teaching, mentoring as listed. It's the bottom of page 2 and onto page 3.
Okay, can we have a motion for recommendation 1?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Zimmerman, second by Ms. Mitchell. Questions or
There's
comments?
an addendum too.
Yes,
Oh,
there is.
yes, thank you so much for that reminder, and it's important.
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Sure, Mrs. Luthner,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mrs. Pellet,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata,
Yes.
Mr. Smaglia,
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay. Recommendation 2.
It is recommended that the board approve the following faculty members for the position of teacher. for the 21-22 School year. I can't- All right, we have to get our act together. Sorry about that. Yep. 45-minute students per day and not to exceed $15,000 for the 21-22 school year. All positions are effective immediately unless otherwise noted and being paid from the ARP ESSER 3 grant.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 2?
So
Motion by Ms. Mitchell, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. O'Donnell. Questions or comments?
Just have one question. There's a $15,000 limit, right, per
Mhm.
student? I
Yes.
mean, per
Per teacher.
teacher? Are we close to any of that with the current mentors? Okay, so they'll be able to continue on for the rest of the year with these additional ones?
Yes.
Can we please have a roll call vote?
Thanks. Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Ms. Pellet,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata,
Yes.
Mr. Smaglia,
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Luther.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, so we're striking the 3rd. Okay, so recommendation 4 on the agenda.
Yep, it is recommended that the board amend the start date of the Atlantic Health EMT evening program at Vernon Township High School from January 3rd, 2022 to December 10th, 2021.
Can we have a motion for recommendation
So
4?
moved.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Sweeney, second. Second by Ms. Mitchell. Questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Pellet,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata,
Yes.
Mr. Smaglia,
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Luther,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Yes.
Can I
Motion
just-
carries.
Does it matter that my wife works for Atlantic Health?
No.
And she's not an
No.
EMT, but she just
No.
works there.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
So I'd like to add an item. Motion 5.
Okay,
I'd like to make a recommendation to approve the senior privilege and senior open campus as presented by the Vernon Township High School administration and students.
okay. Can we have a motion for number 5?
To move.
Motion by Ms. Pellet, second. Second by Ms. Mitchell. Questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. O'Donnell,
Abstain?
Mrs. Pellet,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Mr. Nunziata,
Yes.
Mr. Smaglia,
Abstain.
Mrs. Coughlin,
Abstain.
Mrs. Luthner,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right.
Okay.
Business administrator, it says Dr. McKay. I'm taking the minutes, you're doing the BA stuff.
So much
We
for
are a
retirement, huh?
3-man, 2-man show. Right?
All right, you have the enrollment report, WS2.
Okay, any questions about the report?
Do we have any sidebar?
Yes, I see that.
Okay, no questions on the report?
What's going
All
on?
right, excellent.
Okay. Item J is public participation. We'll begin with those attending in person. And then we'll go to those attending via Zoom. If you're attending in person, please step up to the podium, state your name and municipality, and you will have 5 minutes.
Colleen Solentano from Vernon Valley. I don't have a speech or anything. I just have some questions. You guys were saying there were 170 kids out because the health department advised you guys not to stop the testing. How many of those 170 kids don't have it that their parents went? I would have taken my kid to get the test to make sure, even though you advised me not to. How many of those kids is his kid sitting at home completely healthy and he still has to stay out for 14 days? So I don't understand that. Why you were advising it before it was fine. My daughter came in close contact on the bus for 10 minutes. She had to stay home for 5 days. She's 7. It was torture. Torture. She wanted to be in school. She had her negative test. So after the 5 days or whatever was allowed, she came back.
Right.
So I understand you said we were in orange now.
Yeah.
The test is still the test. I'm still getting a negative test. So why can I not come back? Why can't his kid come back and be able to do, I mean, everything that he said he had to get done? I mean, my daughter, she's in 2nd grade. She is so behind in math. It's so upsetting. She sits there and I am not a math person. I feel like I'm trying to teach her how I was because she can't do 10 plus 10. But now they're asking her to do 212 plus 25 plus 52. She can't do 10 plus 12. So then you're going to say she has a negative test because she came in close contact, but she can't come back and lose 14 days because it was advised. It wasn't told, it was advised. So my advice, I give you advice, you can take it, you don't have to take it. So why would you not take the negative test? Why would you take the test away? I don't understand that. Like, that's my biggest thing. I get it. Trust me, I get it. I want to keep my kids safe, everybody's safe, but if the testing's there and the parents do it, why are you guys not letting them come back? I mean, this kid, is he healthy? This kid is sitting at home, not learning. Like, I don't understand that. I get it. I get the testing. I get all of that and being on high alert but bring the testing back. I mean, the 5 days is long enough. My kid is so behind in reading. I mean, I'm trying everything and anything. You take 14 more days away from her. She started kindergarten. She started kindergarten like this. And then 1st and 2nd. I tell her, I'm like, every day, do you have your lunch? Do you have this? Do you have your smile? The other day she said to me, why do I need my smile? Nobody can see it. Broke my heart. It should break everybody's heart. But I told her, I fought the tears. I said, look at mommy. You see that? You see your eyes? They can see you smile. So you can't take 14 more days away from them. Let them take the test and say, okay. And you need to let us know if we're in orange, unless I missed it and I try to read everything thoroughly. I try to. But if we don't know we're in orange, parents are just going to be mad and be like, hey, why are we doing this? Why is that not? And then they're going to talk to this person and this person, and then it gets all out of whack. So we need a little more communication. I didn't know we were in orange. I might be the only one. But still, the whole no testing, it doesn't make sense to me. And like I said, the advice, it's an advice. I could advise you to jump off the bridge. You're not going to do it. That's all.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments.
Can I provide some
Yes.
assistance perhaps? So thank you for coming forward. I know how difficult this is. I guess I'm not understanding one item, and I'm going to try to clarify one of them. The testing option for after 5 days was only permitted by the Department of Health when we were in yellow status, right? And the colors obviously are green, yellow, orange, and red, right? And it's based on, they call it the CALI report, CALI. It's the Coronavirus Activity Level Indicator report. We only get it once a week. We don't get the CALI report until late on Thursday. So we didn't find out we were orange until maybe 3 o'clock this afternoon. So that didn't come out this morning when the original information went out regarding the Zoom access. Oh, sorry. We were planning on pivoting to the Zoom access regardless of going into orange, right? So, but that comes out about once a week. And we've been yellow for a very, very long time. In fact, the last time we were in orange was probably February or March. So we could provide more regular updates, certainly to keep the community informed. It doesn't change often. We are seeing a pattern that compares really significantly to last year. If you remember last year at this time, we were fully virtual from Thanksgiving all the way through January 18th, Martin Luther King. And that was because the projections from the Department of Health said that we would see very high levels of transmission based on not just the variants, but also based on activity that I guess they monitor and they had recommended. And I think every school in the county went virtual at that particular time. If we could accept the testing at this point, we would. I understand what you're saying, that it's advice. It is, I'll say that it's a little bit more than advice. It's guidance, and it's being provided by folks who study diseases and transmission and viruses for a living, which quite honestly, I don't do. You know what I mean? So I'm a superintendent. I went to school for education, but it's my job to try to keep people safe. And we have followed the guidance or the advice since the beginning. And I know it's frustrating. I will say that I do serve on a regional committee with a lot of other folks in the stations on a regular basis about where's the off ramp, right? How do we get out of what we're in right now? I don't have the answers to that tonight, but I can tell you there are a lot of people who are working on that to try to provide normalcy, to try to provide flexibility. This year is difficult. Some people say it's harder than last year, but I'd still rather be in school with a mask on. I can see kids in the hallway. I can communicate with them. I can watch wonderful learning happen in the classroom, when we're present. I wish that there were more that we could do. And I do hear your concerns. And if you have anything else you want to share, please give me a call or send me an email, and I'd be happy to have a follow-up conversation.
Any other members of the public who are here in person?
Just so you know.
Oh, thank you. Sorry that I
Jen
should have,
Smith is
I
gonna
should
be
have
there.
reminded.
It's in there.
Now I'll have to go back and watch.
I know, she'll have to figure it out.
My name is Vicki Smith. I am a high school English teacher. I'm a member of Lake Wallkill. I am the VTEA president. I want to put some people's minds at ease. When it was first brought forth and that word hybrid came up, I about had a nervous breakdown because I immediately thought to last year. It was
horrible. It was horrible. Luckily, it's not what it is last year, is offering our students a way of being able to hear what is going on in the classroom. Please keep in mind, and I'm talking from the high school level, obviously elementary is a little different, but high school, middle school level, we have everything on Schoology that we're covering each and every day. I put digital copies of what I go over. I say, this is, you can submit this digitally, or I want the hard copy when you come back. I've gotten emails from students. I am in contact with my students. I said, check every day what's there. If you have questions, please contact me. We have been doing this for a long time, teaching. Please trust us. We do not want our students falling through their cracks. We don't want our students failing. And I don't know any teacher worth their salt is going to say, you weren't here, you don't get it, too bad, so sad. We're not going to do that to our kids. They are our kids. And to hear that some of the concerns is a little heart-wrenching for me, because I know that our teachers, our members are working so darn hard. So please trust us to do our jobs that we have been trained for, jobs that it's not just flipping a switch. We are doing our jobs. We will not leave your children behind. We are doing everything we can. Right? So if a child chooses, and I'm talking at the high school level because they can choose, not to log on to the Zoom, keep in mind, during a great year, I still have kids in the classroom who are not logged on because they zone out, but we still reach them. We still get in touch with them. We still get on top of them. I had a student that failed the first marking period. He was in every day. He says, what can I do to make it up at the end of the marking period? I said, nothing. Fail. But you need to do better next marking period. And this kid has come to me. Mrs. Smith, did you see I put this in? Mrs. Smith, I've got that done. He's working towards what he has to do because I'm encouraging him. I'm keeping on top of him. Please let us do what we do best. Trust us to do our jobs. That's what we're hired for. We have administrators to look over us to make sure if we're not doing our jobs, they're going to let us know. Trust us. Please. We keep in contact with our students. We've always provided extra assistance. I have used my lunchtime. I have used my prep time to help kids with college essays, with essays for other classes, with assignments for my class to get them caught up. We're not going to let them flounder. Please don't insult us because I feel a little insulted. And I know some of my members do as well. We're being questioned about so-and-so, you know, they're going to miss something. So they're going to lose all that learn. We're get them caught up. We're doing everything that we can. We're working above and beyond. Please keep that in mind. We're hearing, yeah, we have great teachers in district. We have great teachers in district. And then we hear things to the contrary. It's like, well, wait a minute. So I get a little frustrated. And I feel that I need to speak out. And it was very hard for me not to speak out when things were going on, trust me. We want our students to succeed. All right, please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public who are here in person that would like to comment? Okay, we're going to go to the Zoom. If you would like to comment, please raise your hand and you'll be admitted to the meeting and you'll have 5 minutes.
First up is this David Flyer guy.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I just wanted to address a couple things that were said during the facilities discussion earlier. First, regarding the perceived neglect of facilities by previous boards, we did in fact have a facilities director, Mr. Matt Della Rosa, who was hired in 2010, who was extremely proactive in addressing deficiencies, and under his leadership actually resulted in significant improvements during that time. But there was a lot of resistance in the district having that dedicated position. And he subsequently left in 2013 and was not replaced. So that's one thing. The second thing relative to previous boards cutting taxes, That is true, and it was deliberate, and it was part of a long-term strategy. So in the early 2010s, when the state released the details of the amended school funding formula, the board at the time recognized, and Vernon was actually called out in a white paper that was released from the state regarding the loss of, up to $10 million over a period of years. The only question was when it would take effect, not if. So from 2013 through the 2016-17 school year, the BOE did deliberately reduce taxes by nearly $4 million in anticipation of the cliff that we would eventually hit. That reduction, particularly in those later years, created the bank cap, which this current BOE was able to leverage to keep the district whole when the state aid cuts were instituted. So I think it's just important to remember history on some of these topics as we talk about how they came to be. Just wanted to state those. I thank you all for your time. I know what a thankless job it is, and Karen and Chuck as well. So thank you very much.
Is there anybody? Thank you, Matt. Okay, the floor is yours.
Hi, good evening. This is Barbara Munchauer. I am a teacher in Rolling Hills. I'm actually the math interventionist, and I just wanted to address the one parent. I'm sorry I didn't catch the name, but if you have concerns with your second grader and they're not already seeing me, please feel free to send me an email. Somebody there can tell you how to spell my ridiculous last name. But I would be more than happy to work with your child and get them caught up. That's the main focus of my job this year, is to get children caught up. We have a lot of learning gaps, so we can definitely work with your child. We do miss them a great deal when they're not in, and we are doing everything in our power to help them get back into school and help them get caught up and catch them up on all those things that have been lacking. Just to speak to our lower grades, the students there are doing a lot of hands-on, as I believe was mentioned before. There are packets that are going home with work, and all of our teachers are very accessible. If you need help, if you need support with anything in the classroom, with any of the work that's going home, everyone at the lower grade level, this is what we're doing. It is it's a different animal. We don't have children that are completely independent. It takes them sometimes to do an activity on a Chromebook. It takes them longer to get logged in than the activity takes, but that's okay because they're learning. This is a learning time for them. And we are all here to support your children, to take care of your children, to ensure that they're learning. I do have to agree that hearing a lot of comments this evening, it's very discouraging. And I know my colleagues will agree with me that we don't come to school because we are not interested in your children. Your children become our children. If a child sees me on the senior walkthrough and they remember me, my day is made. When your children are smiling with their eyes with the mask on, my day is made. So we are in this business because we care. We are in this business because we have a drive and an ambition and a passion for teaching your children. And so please give us the benefit of the doubt that we are doing everything we possibly can. When your children return to school, we're helping them. And if there's anything that we can do to help them when they're at home, it's very easy. Send an email and let us know. Again, for that one parent, it's Barbara Munchauer, bmunchauer@btsd.com. And I will be more than happy to discuss with you how I can help your child. Thank you. And thank you, everybody.
Okay, seeing no other raised hands, we'll close it to the public at this time. And item K is open board member forum.
So I just want to respond to some of that, the concerns that you raised. I was not meaning to suggest at all that educators aren't passionate and don't know how to teach or any of that. It's actually based on some things that teachers confided in me about last year about their frustration with students not showing up for Zooms and not, just disappearing on them, and the difficulty of reaching a kid who is not in the room when you're I don't know how you can do it. And so it was my feeling that we need to know which kids are, coming or not coming to class. But it wasn't meant to reflect any doubt in the passion of our teachers or in the ability, their ability to, engage with students. I just, I have 2 teenagers at home, and it was a struggle last year to get them to do what they needed to do. And I just knew that it's almost impossible. What we're asking of, as Mrs. Davino said, the best thing would be if we could have, an aide to watch the kids at home, or I don't even know how that would work. But my thing was more, I'd like to make sure we know what's going on with the kids. Are they coming or are they not? It wasn't to suggest that teachers aren't passionate, aren't working hard, aren't, able to monitor students. That wasn't what I was trying to say. And I'm sorry if it gave you that impression at all, because it was actually more about the impossible task that we are now once again, putting on our educators to teach 2 different student bodies.
No, that was from before.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm running out of my time. To teach people in 2 different places. I just am so disheartened that we're back here, and it wasn't meant at all as a dig of any kind. So I just wanted to clarify that.
I would also just say, if I offended you, Vicky, or any teacher out there, I apologize. My what I said was not to offend, and I think I've praised more teachers here than I've ever said anything bad about any teacher. So I apologize if I offended it. But what my point is time is finite. It's so great. You guys are great teachers, but you can't give yourself 28 hours. You can't make a 28-hour day, can you? So when these kids are missing that time, that's what I'm saying. It's not the teacher. And I'm not saying, and the point I think, and I'm only saying this because I think you were referring to something I said about the teacher. I wasn't saying the teachers would leave the kids behind. I don't think the teachers would, but because they would have to catch up, get that kid caught up, or 12 or 5 kids in the classroom caught up, it's also slowing down the classroom. Now, that's great if you can extend the school year, but if you can't extend the school year, now your time is limited. And now you still have 3 more chapters you got to get through before September, June. So what I said had nothing to do, and I apologize if I offended you or any other teachers out there. It's not the quality that you guys are, or the quality of teaching you're giving. It's just time is finite. And if these kids are missing that time, they can't make it up, and I know you guys will try hard. Like I said, I have a teacher email me every day. She doesn't have to. She doesn't have to at all, but she's doing it. She's on leave. This is what you guys do, but your job is not to be 24-hour teacher. Your job, you have your job, you help the kids, and you should have time for yourselves too. So that's what's more I'm trying to get across, not that you guys are doing a bad job. So if I offended you guys again, I apologize.
To clarify,
Anything else for open board member forum? Okay, we do have to have a second closed session. That is to discuss personnel matters and HIB. Action will not be taken when we get out. Can I have a motion to enter closed?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sweeney, second. Second by Mr. Zimmerman. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the board is enclosed.